If you're still throwing kitchen scraps in the trash while complaining about weak plants and low yields, you're creating your own soil problems. Every time you dump vegetable peels, coffee grounds, and fruit scraps, you're throwing away microbial fuel that could be feeding your garden. Then summer hits, plants stall out, leaves yellow, fruit drops early, and the first reaction is to buy bottled fertilizer. That cycle keeps your soil dependent and your plants fragile. I've tested this in backyard beds, raised beds, and hydroponic systems, and fermented kitchen scrap tea consistently outperforms quick synthetic fixes when it comes to plant recovery and long-term resilience. If you care about growing better food and not just greener leaves, subscribe to Husbandry and hit like. This channel is for growers who want systems that work, not shortcuts that backfire. Let's get one thing straight before we go further. Raw scraps buried in soil are not the same as fermented scrap tea. A lot of gardeners dig a hole, toss in peels, cover it up, and expect magic. What actually happens is uneven decomposition, nitrogen tie-up, pest attraction, and sometimes root burn. Fermentation changes the game because you're pre-digesting those nutrients with microbes before they ever touch your root zone. Here's how I actually do it in a working garden. I start with clean plant-based scraps only. Vegetable trimmings, fruit peels, coffee grounds, crushed eggshells, and herb stems. No meat, no dairy, no oily leftovers. Those create anaerobic conditions and foul smells that don't belong anywhere near your beds. I aim for roughly 2 parts fresh green scraps to 1 part dry carbon like shredded paper, dried leaves, or straw. That balance keeps fermentation active without turning sour. Everything gets chopped into small pieces, around 1 to 2 inches. Smaller pieces break down faster and allow microbes to colonize quickly. In a small backyard setup, I use a 5-gallon bucket with a loose-fitting lid. For larger gardens, I scale up to a 15 or 20-gallon container. The size doesn't matter as much as the ratio. Now here's where most people either do it right or completely ruin it. I add enough dechlorinated water to fully submerge the scraps. If you're using tap water, let it sit out 24 hours to allow chlorine to dissipate. Chlorine kills microbes, and this entire process depends on microbial life. Once submerged, I stir aggressively for a few minutes to introduce oxygen. Then I let it ferment for 48 to 72 hours, stirring once or twice daily. You're looking for a strong, earthy smell, not rotten, not sour, earthy and slightly sweet. If it smells like sewage, you've gone anaerobic. That usually means too many greens, not enough carbon, or not enough stirring. After about 2 to 3 days, go ahead and strain the liquid. What you're left with is this concentrated fermented scrap tea. Now, this is not something you dump straight onto your plants at full strength. That's actually another really common mistake folks make. For soil-grown crops and raised beds, I usually dilute it at a ratio of 1 part fermented tea to 5 parts water. For stressed plants in the peak summer heat, like, say, tomatoes that are drooping or peppers dropping blossoms, I'll apply about 1 gallon of that diluted tea per mature plant, directly around the root zone. Not on the leaves in midday sun, though. Early morning or late evening only. Within about 24 to 48 hours, you'll start to see a difference, assuming the plant is still viable. The leaves firm up, the color improves, and you might even notice new growth resuming. It's not magic, it's biology. You're just reintroducing active microbes and soluble nutrients right where the roots can get to them. In smaller backyard beds, say a 4x8 raised bed with mixed greens and herbs, I'll use about 3 to 4 gallons of diluted tea evenly distributed across the entire bed every 10 days during heavy growing season. That keeps microbial populations strong and nutrient cycling active. Hydroponic growers need to be more conservative. I use about 1 cup of strained fermented tea per 5 gallons of nutrient solution, and I only do it once every 2 weeks. Hydro systems are sensitive, and overloading with microbes can create imbalance. But when done carefully, root mass increases noticeably, and nutrient uptake becomes more efficient. Now let's talk about something that serious growers understand. Soil conditions matter just as much as nutrients. You can brew the best tea in the world, but if your soil is bone dry, compacted, or completely out of pH range, plants won't respond properly. That's why I regularly check moisture and pH before applying anything. I use a 4-in-1 soil moisture meter, digital plant temperature and soil moisture test, and pH meter, and sunlight intensity with backlight LCD display to monitor what's actually happening at root level. It tells me if I'm dealing with drought stress, pH imbalance, or just nutrient deficiency. The link is in the description if you want to see the one I use. It takes the guesswork out of application timing. Because here's the truth. A lot of so-called fertilizer problems are actually moisture and pH problems. If soil is too dry, microbial activity stalls. If it's waterlogged, roots suffocate. If pH is off, nutrients lock up. Testing before applying fermented tea ensures you're not just dumping liquid into a dysfunctional system. There's also a trade-off worth mentioning. Fermented scrap tea works best as part of a system. If your soil has been abused for years with heavy synthetic inputs, results may take longer at first. You're rebuilding biology, not just feeding leaves. In my own beds, after 2 full growing seasons of consistent use, the difference was dramatic. Darker soil, better aggregation, fewer pest outbreaks, and stronger plants that handled heat stress without collapsing. Some gardeners will argue that buying bottled organic liquid fertilizer is easier. And yes, it's convenient. But it's also expensive over time and disconnected from your waste stream. Fermented scrap tea closes the loop. You're converting kitchen waste into plant nutrition within days. Another thing I've learned from experience: consistency beats intensity. Don't wait until plants are dying to start. Apply diluted tea every 2 weeks as a preventative measure during active growth. That steady microbial support keeps crops resilient long before visible stress shows up. And don't overdo it. More is not better. Concentrated applications can lead to salt buildup or microbial imbalance. Stick to the dilution ratios. Observe plant response. Adjust gradually. If you're managing multiple beds, stagger your fermentation batches so you always have active tea ready. I rotate buckets every week, so one batch is fermenting while another is being applied. It becomes part of the routine, just like watering or pruning. Over time, you'll notice something interesting. You'll need fewer external inputs. Plants respond faster to stress. Soil retains moisture better. Yields stabilize even during unpredictable weather. That's when you realize this isn't just about scraps, it's about system design. Kitchen waste is not trash, it's microbial currency. When you ferment it properly, dilute it correctly, and apply it strategically, it becomes garden gold. Not because it's trendy or clever, but because it feeds the biological engine that drives plant health. If this approach makes sense to you and you want more practical, field-tested methods like this, subscribe to Husbandry and share this video with another grower who's still throwing nutrients in the trash. Growing better food isn't about buying more products. It's about understanding systems and applying knowledge consistently. Let's build stronger gardens the smart way.